welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Y'all, I just got off the plane. Y'all have to forgive me. My brain is still in Denver right now. I just came back from a legislative conference out there and met some amazing people, connected with some amazing Democrats from across the country. And you know what? People are hyped up. People are ready to go. They see change happening, and they know that they are part of that change. So I flubbed my intro, but that's okay. Y'all forgive me this time. So what's going on? I got a rant. I got a whole lot of things I want to get to. But first up, I want to say this is some good news for those of us who often want to talk about criminal justice reform and police reform and what that looks like. The WDRB reports the U.S. Department of Justice charged 4 former and current Louisville police officers with federal crimes in connection with the fatal raid on Breonna Taylor's home in 2020. Ex-detectives Joshua James and Brett Haskins and current officer Kyle Meany and Kelly Goodlett face charges that include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force and obstruction, Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a news conference on Thursday. The action caps a federal investigation that looked at how police obtained the search warrant for Taylor's apartment, something a prior state investigation by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron's office did not pursue. Cameron has said that aspect was part of the Justice Department's work. The indictments made public Thursday allege that James and Meany drafted and approved what they knew was a false affidavit to support a search warrant for Miss Taylor's home, Assistant U.S. Attorney General Kristen Clark said in Washington. That false affidavit set in motion events that led to Miss Taylor's death when other LMPD officers executed that warrant. While James, Haskins, and Meany were federally indicted, Goodlett was charged on information, which typically means he has pled guilty or plans to. She was charged with 1 count of conspiracy. Y'all, these indictments and these charges will never bring Breonna Taylor back. But bringing charges against police officers who kill sleeping Black women in their bed is the least that can be done. Now, we know the Attorney General Daniel Cameron out of Kentucky is sus at best. If I'm not mistaken, his spouse is related to Mitch McConnell. So we know, that bruh ain't really a bruh, but we gonna let that slide. I'm not gonna go into internal Black people politics. I'm just gonna let y'all know that finally, some charges are going to be brought against those people who bothered that woman who was in her bed asleep. Because remember, the only charges that they brought before were the endangering of lives in the adjacent apartments. There were never any charges for killing this innocent woman who was asleep in her bed. Thank goodness Merrick Garland got that done. Now I just need him to hurry up and bring some charges against the Orange Menace that continues to wreak havoc on our nation. I'm gonna let you go ahead and handle that. So what? Let's talk about what happened in Nebraska. Restrictive voting laws passed in the wake of the 2020 elections were more prevalent in Republican. Oh, well, I'm sorry. That was the Voting Rights Act. Hold on. I'm going to talk about what's going on. Voters in Kansas rejected a proposed state constitutional amendment Tuesday that would have said there was no right to an abortion in the state. This vote makes clear what we know. The majority of Americans agree that women should have access to abortion and should have the rights to make their own decisions about their bodies. Kansas for Constitutional Freedom, the main abortion rights group opposing the amendment, called the victory huge and decisive. The people of Kansas have spoken, said Rachel Sweet, campaign manager for the group. They think that abortion should be safe, legal, and accessible in the state of Kansas. Listen, y'all, they thought they were getting what they wanted when when Roe v. Wade and Justice Alito over in Europe making light and making jokes about restricting women's right to control their body autonomy and privacy. But when you put it on the ballot, it's not a partisan issue. Republican women are coming out like, yo, wait, hold up. And again, just like here in Indiana, the vast majority of electors are men. And we have a huge swath of America who could never actually get pregnant. have unwanted pregnancies, dictating what those of us who can get pregnant should do with our bodies. So congratulations, Kansas. A deeply, deeply red state showed up and showed out. And voting is important. And then, they thought that putting this referendum during the primary season was going to diminish voting, because usually people don't turn out in the primary, and they thought they would have a low voter turnout. They reported that people had registered to vote just for this referendum. So when you put abortion on the ballot, people show up. But I want y'all to understand something. Melissa Brown of the Nashville Tennessean reports, restrictive voting laws passed in the wake of the 2020 election were more prevalent in Republican-controlled states with racially diverse populations, according to a new analysis by the Brennan Center for Justice. The Brennan Center report released Wednesday indicates restrictive voting rights and voting access legislation introduced in all but one state since 2020 is not purely a partisan issue, despite deepening party line battles around election in the United States. It may be somewhat of a surprise to folks that this isn't just a story about parties, said Sean Morales Doyle, director of the Brennan Center's Voting Rights Division. Voting rights become an incredibly polarized political issue, and I think people are used to thinking about it as a partisan issue. But this study shows it's not just party that is playing a role here, it's about race as well. Researchers analyzed restrictive voting provisions introduced in the state's legislature in 2021, political and demographic makeup of the legislative districts, and the 2020 cooperative election study, an online national study conducted before and after the major U.S. election. The study examines racial resentment, a political science term developed in the 1980s to measure the role race plays in public opinion. The Brennan report found at the legislative district level, representatives from the whitest districts in the most racially diverse states were the most likely to sponsor anti-voter bills. At the state level, the intersection of race and partisanship was the strongest indicator of restrictive voting bills, as less diverse states were unlikely to introduce or pass restrictive legislation regarding a political party. We are not seeing these bills introduced and passed everywhere that Republicans have control. Rather, they are most prevalent in states where they have control and where there are significant non-white populations. Are y'all hearing what they're saying? What they're saying. So like in Montana, where the population of non-white folk is very low, they're not introducing as many restrictive laws. It's only in places like Indiana, places like Missouri, hello St. Louis, places like Arkansas, and in the South where a vast majority of Black folks live or people of color live, right? They want to restrict access because they see that as the numbers change, the voting, so you got to be able to count. You got to be able to count. And if they keep passing the stuff, to say, no, we want to be in control. And they want to do a minority rule. Right now, white folks are still majority in the nation. Yes, they are. But at the same time, eventually it's going to all balance out. We know this. We've seen the numbers. We see how scared they're getting, right? So they pass these restrictive laws in red states where the population is diverse. Please understand they're making it easy to vote in states where Republicans controlled, but less diverse. So it's easy so listen, when I was listening to, the State House today, the House was arguing, SB 1, and they're still going on right now. At the start of the show, they were arguing SB 2. But Representative Robin Shackelford wanted to introduce an amendment that would require physicians and people in making decisions about women's bodies to have some kind of bias training, because we all have biases. And another representative got up and said there's no statistical science proof that there are biases, and bias training doesn't help. Okay, but if you haven't walked in the shoes of a person of color and don't know how they are treated in America, shut up and sit down. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're getting doctors who are actually looking out for the whole person, not just the level of melanin in their skin. So this is real. This is what the Brennan Center brought to bear yesterday. How we craft bills have always been racialized in this nation, But here's the deal. Those of us who don't believe that's the way it should be, we have an opportunity to get involved and make things happen in the right way. Right? If we believe that everybody has an opportunity to participate in this citizen government, we're not going to keep writing or letting people write bills that discriminate against people of color. We're just not going to do it. So, one of the things I keep harping on is that in Indiana, we don't own any of the statewide offices. Not a one. And that is tragic because there are a lot of decisions that are being made at that state house, and we on the opposite side of the ideological spectrum have no say in what is actually happening to us. But we have an opportunity to start changing that this year. You guys know I've been hyping up 3 amazing women who are running for statewide office. I'm really excited to have the first of the 3 on tonight. She's a dear friend of mine out of Bloomington. Y'all know, that's like my second home. I know it is. My second home. That's where my girl lives. So, y'all give it up for my guest, the Monroe County Treasurer, Jessica McClelllan. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dana. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to see you and talk to you. I'm so excited.
Yes.
I think it's great that you put your name on the ballot, but you know what? I want people to know who you are because running for this office is significant. Running a statewide race is significant. So tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yes, it is so significant. It's a big state and it's an important state. And, it's my home. It's a place that I love. So I live in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm the Monroe County Treasurer. I'm in my second term. I'm a gay Midwestern mom. And I just want people to know I'm a regular person who's a really, really good treasurer. And I thought this year, the treasurer's race is coming up. It's statewide. There's no incumbent. And this is an opportunity for me to go around the state and let people choose if they want a really qualified state treasurer. This is the year to do it. I've been doing this job for the county for 6 years, and I absolutely love it. And I've worked with the state treasurer, I've worked at their office, and I absolutely love their office. It's an amazing office. They do really exciting things from my perspective, it's something that I would love to get more involved in. And so after a little bit of thought, I thought, I really need to put my name in, and yeah, made it happen.
I love that. So let's take it back. What made you want to be civically engaged and run for office for like you said, you're in your second term as county treasurer. Mm-hmm. What gave you that push to say, I'm going to run for county treasurer the first time?
Well, it kind of all goes back to what got me involved in county government in the first place. Because I'm an educated woman. I have a degree from IU. I graduated in 2000. And then I just kind of started working in graphic design and marketing because I have a journalism degree. So I'm good at writing. I'm good at, putting together images and making things, making things for companies or making things for newspapers. So I started working and I had 2 kids and, life was just chugging along, but I was in a bad situation that I had to leave. My boyfriend was actually arrested in Indianapolis. And was in the Marion County Jail there, and I'd left. I left the house. I left with my kids, and I never went back. But I needed a lot of help. Like I wasn't. I had bags packed because it was a situation that I was thinking I really need to get out of this as soon as I can in any way that I can. But how do you find a job? How do you find a place to live? How do you figure out how to get your kids in childcare? All of these things all of a sudden had to happen for me. And so I got resources, I got help. Locally, there's resources. Statewide, there's resources. So I found out what an important network there is for people that for whatever reason, it could be illness, it could be death in the family, it could be something like my situation, end up without even a roof over their head. Yeah. And so I got a lot of help from different local organizations like a domestic violence shelter helped me incredibly in the legal process, and state programs like SNAP and like a child care assistance program. I could not have done it without that child care assistance program. That really helped me get me back on my feet. And then I eventually discovered county government, and it became a way for me to work with work with those community leaders and make sure that those kinds of programs and those kinds of things that people needed, like across the board, had someone who cared working in that, working in that sphere, working in that environment. I really, really cared in it. And when I found county government, I wanted to build a career there. And so I did. I worked in a couple different offices. I worked for the commissioners and I worked for the assessor. And then I decided to run for treasurer when that office opened up. It's a term limited office. And so the treasurer was not able to run again. So it was an open seat. And I decided to do it.
I think that's fabulous. We all have different journeys that we take, right? And you found yourself in a desperate situation and turned to county government. And then after you received the assistance that you needed, now you're like, I want to do that for somebody else. I think that shows an amazing level of compassion, because a lot of times people don't understand what it is to struggle, right? There are people who are making decisions that don't understand what it is to struggle. And here you're saying, no, I went through that, and that is so, that speaks volumes about who you are in your character.
Yeah, exactly. I think that so many people that are making decisions for the rest of us, they've never known what it's like to save that WIC, to use that WIC payment for the beans and the peanut butter and the cereal. They've never known what it's had to feel, how it feels to find a childcare provider that will accept your assistance, because you have to go to work. You have to find a way to go to work. And they don't understand the sacrifices that regular people are making every day just to try to get a little bit ahead. It may not even be a lot ahead, but a little bit ahead is better than where you were. And those kind of people need all the support and encouragement and really we should be proud of them.
Yeah.
We should be lifting them up.
Yeah, because that's resilience, right? That's resiliency.
They didn't have it when they started. They learned it.
I love it. And so you said you're a gay Midwestern mom. Tell us about your kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. My kids are great. I have a almost 20-year-old daughter who goes to IU, and she's in the nursing school. And then I have an almost 19-year-old son. His birthday is like next week. So he's our 18-year-old son. He turns 18 next week, and he's a senior at North, and he is a diver. So I go to a lot of swim meets and watch a lot of diving. That's very exciting. Yeah, they're great. I guess a funny thing that I can share with you is my son Max is basically the male version of me. He looks exactly like me, just with no hair, and he's 6'4", and he has giant muscles.
Okay. So. That's adorable.
But like this face right here, this face on Max.
I love it. And I've met your kids. They're sweet kids, so that means you've done a good job. How have they been handling, the rigors of a statewide campaign if mom's not home? Like normally you could probably come home and do things. Are they doing well? Because I mean they're 18 and 20, but
yeah. No, they're so supportive. My son Max is always like, "You're doing such a great job, Mom," and he's a great driver. He came with me on the road up to Clinton County. He came to the Clinton County or Carroll County, and we met Carroll County Dems and Clinton County Dems, and he loved it. So he's a good driver. And Brianna has been working her tail off trying to get into IU nursing school, so she's been super busy with that. But we're really, really proud of her. And yeah, she seems to have her future really figured out. She wants to be a nurse. She wants to work in medicine. And she's extremely driven. So a lot of times I try to like use Brianna as an example for me. If Brianna can do it, I can do it.
I love it. I mean, and considering like what we just came off of COVID, she's like, no, I want to do this. And we saw how, man, that's pretty dope, actually. I'm glad, because when I decided to go back to school, it was like IT or healthcare. And I thought, the computer's not going to throw things at me. So
yeah,
that's why I went that route. And so do you mind telling us your coming out story? Because, I think a lot of people, Harvey Milk always said, be out. so that people know
Yeah.
that gay folks are in your doctor's office, they're in your lawyer's office, they're in your accountants, and how now they can be your state treasurer. But coming
Yeah.
out is never easy, right? For some people.
No.
For me, I was never really in.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that? I would love to hear that.
Oh, yeah, I do want to share that. Um, yeah, it has a funny ending. So I'll start off with like the kind of the thing that keeps people in the closet. Like I came out late in life. I've only been out for really the last 5 years. But the thing that keeps people in the closet, especially if you're like I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up in the 90s, and same-sex relationships, maybe they were legal, but in the 90s, they were still very dangerous. They were not accepted. There was a lot of stigma and prejudice and discrimination against people who even had out relationships. I mean, same-sex marriage, of course, wasn't even legal then either. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and I always kind of thought you're kind of like if you're thinking you might be gay, then maybe you are. That's kind of the situation that I came from, thinking, I probably am, um, but I was able to sort of pass as straight for a very, very long time. But after I had kids and I'd been married, it kind of became more and more obvious that this was not who I was. It was not my authentic self. And so I
Mm.
started to think a lot more about how I wanted to live the rest of my life. So I think the way that I the way that I came out is that I was living I was living with my girlfriend, but I had told my parents I was living with my friend. And so one day I just called my mom and I told her, you know how I'm living with my friend. Well, I just really wanted to tell you that she's not my friend, she's my girlfriend. And she goes and she says, oh, that's great. And then she stops and she says, I want to tell you about some birds I saw on the beach this morning. So she just listened to what I said and it just moved right. I guess that would have been funnier if I told you my parents are really competitive bird watchers. And so she listened to what I had to say her, and then she just went right back to talking about birds. So it was a perfect coming out experience. My mom just took it in stride, and she was like, "Oh, okay. Well, can we talk about birds now?"
Right, right. Because listen, you're gay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're happy. Let's move on.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's so important because we think that we can't be successful. Especially in the '90s, because I too I came out early in the '90s. And we thought we couldn't be successful and be our best selves if we shared with the world. But we also saw the tragic ending of people who were, authentic to themselves and how they were also limited. So it takes courage.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you shared that because that is kind of cool. Because mom's was like, look, I just want to talk about birds. But
Yeah.
being in the computer,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, moms are just like, you do you. Jessica, you've been through so much stuff and you're old enough to take care of yourself. I'm glad that you're happy. We know her, we love her anyway. And so
I want you to be happy.
yeah,
Being happy is
it's
like the
it's
coolest thing. Having a partner that gets what it is that you're doing,
mhm,
and is willing to take that ride with you is so
mhm.
significant. Especially we as women, we sometimes struggle with partners who, they say they down, but then they don't be down. So and
Yeah.
I know your spouse, and I am excited for you to and all the good things that you guys are gonna do. So let's talk about what it is to be a treasure, because a lot of us, I don't always know the details. I look at things from a legislative point of view. So talk about what you do in the Monroe County Treasurer. Talk about what the expectations are that you will be doing as a state treasurer, and maybe how they coincide with each other.
As a county treasurer, your most important task is you are the collection arm for property taxes, for taxes. You're like the caboose in the train, the caboose of the taxation train. There's all the real estate, and we even tax mobile homes, and we have to tax business personal properties. And so that's linked to businesses in that county. All that goes through a taxation process, like with an assessed value and having deductions and exemptions applied. And then we send you the bill. And most people just pay their bill. Like they just pay their bill on time, and we never talk to those people. We never worry about those people. Those are our A+ customers. But all the work that the county treasurer does is kind of on the outside, is on the fringes of that bill collection process.
Okay.
It's things that go wrong with the check or the credit card, or kind of the payment process, payment processing. It's the people that don't pay. And
Mm-hmm.
you've got to get to those people. You're trying to make it as easy and seamless and smooth for as many people as you possibly can. So you've got to think about, how do we contact them? How do we send them as much notification as we can of penalties that are coming up, or of things that are happening in the future with these property taxes that could adversely affect you, such as unfortunately having a tax sale, and
Mm-hmm.
or sending the taxes to court, something like that. So we work on those outsides, of that middle lane of A+ property tax payers. They're good. They don't really need our help. We don't really need to talk to them that
Mm-hmm.
much. And so we're the collection arm of the county. And then we also balance the books. We are the bank of the county. We balance the books with the auditor. The auditor gets all of the claims and the accounts payable, and they write all the checks. And then the treasurer co-signs all the checks. And we send those checks out to everybody. And we make sure every day that the bank accounts match what is on the auditor's ledger. So we're keeping track of all the outstanding checks. We're keeping track of all the deposits that we've collected that haven't cleared the bank yet. We are just a live, we're just a live banking center basically for the county.
Wow.
You could think of it as a clearinghouse for all the checks too. If you ever want to know, if for what kind of, who got paid, or how much we paid a company or an individual, or if the check's cleared, that could go through us. So trying to think if there's anything else big that I'm forgetting.
It sounds like,
Those
it
are-
sounds like a lot of work. I'm glad I never wanted to be treasurer. Glad people. And so what is, how is, let's talk about what, okay, that's a good overview of what the county treasurer does. What does the state treasurer do?
The one part that the state treasurer does not do is collect property taxes.
Okay.
We would not do any kind of collection. But what we have a huge role in is the bank accounts. We hold all the bank accounts for not only the state, but a few other like kind of quasi-governmental entities like College Choice 529 Plan and the local government investment pool.
Okay.
But so what we do is we are the clearinghouse for all the checks that this auditor of state sends out. They're sending those out to vendors, they're sending payroll, they're sending all kinds of disbursements to counties. They're passed through for federal grants and for state grants, for state funding, for local income tax collections, innkeepers tax collections, excise tax collections. So we have a team of bookkeepers. I say we.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my office. I'm not the current state treasurer.
You better claim it though. Claim it.
They have, yeah. We visualize what's going to be. They have a team of very savvy bookkeepers, very good and bank savvy bookkeepers that know all of all the ins and outs of coordinating with the auditor's office and keeping very, very good records with the auditor's office. They're also very savvy about banks and about how banking works, and you have to be to do that job. So you really need to understand the details about how ACHs and wires work, how the different security features at banks work, and how to deter fraud. That's very, very important in the banking world. That's something that we do at the treasurer's office too. We're very involved in fraud detection and staying up to date on fraud. Yeah.
Yeah.
on keeping fraud
Yeah.
at bay.
So, okay, this is great. So, banking, whenever you talk about banking, that is such a complicated animal. That's a beast, right? So,
Yeah.
is it the treasurer's job at both county and state level, obviously the job that you're looking for to stay on top of all those regulation changes too?
Yeah. Yeah. Any like banking regulations?
Yeah.
Yeah, banking regulations definitely affect us, but that if that kind of infect, I think that mostly affects how the investing rules that
Okay.
banks have to follow for, like on their back end.
Okay.
But yeah, we would probably, yeah, I think that we would probably we would be aware of those things that are going on in the background too, because we have such close relationships with the bankers
Right.
that handle our funds. We would definitely know if any of those changes would affect us in any way. And also just bankers, bankers at the state level, I think bankers that are dealing with at a state level the kind of funding that we're holding at banks makes us privy to the kinds of things the banking world and what is going on their back end too,
Right.
because we be very aware of of this safety and the safety and the stability of the banking world.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty dope. I know that sometimes like the clerk, the Monroe County clerk, Clerk Brown will come up and testify at the State House on certain bills. Have you ever had to do that as the treasurer?
Sometimes we've talked to the state house a lot about mostly about property taxes.
Okay.
So any kind of bill that affects property taxes, we would talk to them about it, such as there's a mortgage deduction that homeowners have on their property taxes, and we're taking away the mortgage deduction and rolling it into the homestead credit. So instead of having two two pieces of paperwork you have to file, you only have one,
Okay.
you're not losing any money. So we're very much in support of that kind of legislation that makes things easier on taxpayers.
I like it. I like it. And so you kind of know how to work your way around those elected officials and knowing what's happening at the State House anyway, because you've already been there and done, you've had those
Mm-hmm.
relationships. Tell us
Mm-hmm.
about
Yeah, the
oh, go ahead.
phone calls are your best friend. You can call these guys, and these mostly men and women, and talk to them. They're always willing to talk to you, especially, I mean, I say this, all county officials that are listening, or all county officials that are serving in office, they sh- your elected officials at the legislature will listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have direct experience with how these laws are going to affect your residents and affect your citizens, and you're an important person in your community and in your county, and you should be talking to them about anything that you think is important, because they will really put a lot of weight on what a county elected official says.
I love it. I love it. And so being a county treasurer and being the state, so I know that I talk about you being a county treasurer because that's what you're doing now, but you're going to state treasurer, and this is how we talk about that experience that you have. Um, that is an administrator executive position. Tell us about your leadership style because you have a staff that works for you. What is your leadership style like?
Yes, I do have a staff. I've got an amazing staff of 7 individuals, and we have some more part-time that we pull in, especially during tax time. My leadership style is about it's about being a champion of your office and bringing in the best people around you, because it's those people around you and giving them the tools and to do their job the best that they can, that's going to elevate your office, because it's not about you. It's not about you as the elected official. It's about the county, and it's about the citizens that you serve. So at the state audit or at state treasurer's office, it's about the state, and it's about serving all Hoosiers in every county. And so it's about putting good people around you, and you going out there and being a champion of every single department that you have, and um, you know, every single kind of service that you can offer. So at the state treasurer's level, we've got the College Choice 529 plan. We've got the local government investment pool, and we've got the Indiana Bond Bank. Those are services that directly impact the community and the citizens in every single county. And so a good state treasurer is going to give those departments the tools that they need, and they're going to help by going around and finding out how to make it easy for local governments, for schools, libraries, cities, counties, fire districts, and townships, how to get access to your office and how to get access to the great people on your team.
I love it.
So I'm just such a believer in that it's not about you. And then it's as the elected official, it's your job to make your office shine. And who shines in your office? It's people that are picking up the phone. It's the people that are answering emails. It's the people that when they have direct contact with a citizen, they are going to be energetic and excited about sharing an opportunity to help other people, sharing they see their job as an opportunity to help someone get something done.
Yeah, and it's because it's not glamorous, right? It really isn't. It literally is just a regular person needing some help, and their interaction is with your office will determine if that was a good experience or a bad experience. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
I think it's amazing.
Exactly. But as a leader, but there is something that you can do as a leader that you can't ignore, and that's being who you are. It's being yourself. So it's me being a Democrat. It's being a gay Midwestern mom. It's having the experiences and the background that I have, and being in the room where other high level conversations are going on, and just being in that room and just meeting people where they are and letting them meet me where I am, and seeing I'm a normal, logical, rational, level-headed human being, and having regular conversations, real life human interactions with other leaders, that's going to make a difference you're going to have the chance to make difference in leadership at the state level. And we don't have that chance right now. We don't even have a chance because we are not in the conversation. So that's the part of leadership that I think is really important in these state offices. Like that's why I'm running for office. That's why it's so important that we have this slate of amazing women that bring a different background to the state house. Even though we're just administrative offices, we're going to be in the room for so many conversations where there is nobody like us in the room.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that, we don't, as Democrats, we don't have a say in the direction of our state right now. And it bugs me because we pay our taxes. I know I do. I see my taxes get gone before I get my money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We contribute to the economy. We do everything else but have a say in the direction. And and knowing that, how much more does that add fuel to the fire? Because obviously you're a servant. But what is that political thing that says, you know what, Doug Nabbit, y'all? I mean, does that add a little extra fire?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so yeah, you're asking like just knowing that we're not in that conversation, does that add fuel to my fire to get there and just say, hey, you've got to talk to us. I mean, we've got to get more people at the State House because we need to be in more conversations. And the more people listen to our ideas and see how they dovetail with their ideas, we've got to become like other states, like you were talking about in your rant, or maybe we were talking about it before the show started. There are states where Democrats and Republicans work together.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get there. And I talk a lot when I go around the state about being a level-headed Democrat. We're not gonna compromise our beliefs and our values, but we are going to be level-headed Democrats. We are going to find ways where we want to find ways where we can come together and agree on issues that elevate everybody in Indiana. And we are going to be the ones that are going to bring that conversation to that point. We're going to be the ones that say, hey, okay, I know you guys want to do this, but how about we add a little bit of this, and we add a little bit of more more equity, and we add a little bit of more of underrepresented communities, and we add a little bit more of rural areas that aren't getting the education and aren't getting the funding that they need, and like, who's going to say no to helping out more people?
Oh, well, we know who says no.
Well,
Um,
I know it just seems like a
unfortunately, we know. We know they don't.
yeah,
It's
we
interesting.
know.
I'm been listening to these debates because I get a chance to, my life is so wonderful. I get to listen to the General Assembly sessions while I'm working during the day, and listening to the arguments that people make about, abortion or how much funding, and it all comes from one perspective, and it's like there's no way without supermajority, there's no way anything that we care about is going to get through. And you being in a position where you're an administrator of a very important office, you can influence a lot of things, right? And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
So
You know, it's fun to be in a position where, like, they know I don't have like, if I was in that office, they know I don't have a vote. I can't vote on anything, so I can scream,
right,
scream as loud as I want.
that's a perspective I hadn't even thought about, right?
Yeah.
Like you can really get at them because, man, look, you about to intimidate a whole bunch of little men. They not ready. They not ready. And you're tall. They're not ready.
Yeah.
So, I gotta touch, we gotta touch on some of the issues at hand. I know people who want to vote for you want to know how you feel about certain things. Let's start with Roe v. Wade and the overturning of that and the debate that we're having right here in Indiana. How are you feeling about that?
It's really discouraging, and it's disheartening, and it's very scary because women are going to suffer. I don't I don't want women to come to harm. I don't want women to have to risk losing their life. But I feel like that is a position that the Republican supermajority is putting women in, and it's going to take. I feel like it's going to take a tragedy for them to see what we're trying to tell them, that this is so harmful to women and so harmful to families and so harmful to children that are already part of their family. And unfortunately, it's discouraging to see them setting the state of Indiana up for tragedy after tragedy before they decide, oh, gee, maybe Roe v. Wade was actually the logical and sensible tack to take on women's reproductive health.
Yeah, yeah. One of the other areas that I fight about, or argue about on a regular basis, excuse me, is our inability to do what we need to do for rural Indiana. And it's unfortunate because these folks in these communities are continuing to send back people who don't fight for them and the things that they need, especially when it comes to infrastructure and it comes to healthcare, the lack of facilities in some counties. Talk about how important it would be to have somebody in that state house that recognizes the needs of rural Indiana.
Rural Indiana is the forgotten land. I've been spending a lot of time traveling around the 8th and the 9th this over the summer. And it's kind of like my home stomping grounds anyway. And I grew my kids and I lived in Brown County, Indiana, before we moved to Bloomington. That's where I lived when they were born. And I know the struggles that rural Indiana has with getting access to simple, basic needs, things like food deserts and healthcare deserts, things like limited access to schools that are far away, busing routes that last hours and hours, pockets of deep, deep poverty, and that cannot be alleviated. All of these things can be alleviated if we put the resources and the focus and the spotlight on these areas that so desperately need people in power at the state level to care. it just baffles my mind how badly rural counties are struggling, and how using rural, I'm from rural Indiana, so you should elect me, has just become like a a catch-all that people use to get elected, and then they don't do anything.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's just really sickening. And, I lived in that I
Hmm.
lived in that world for many years, and there's so much that can be done.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's some things that the treasurer's office can do. There are some tools that the treasurer's office can try to bring to those counties,
Hmm.
but really, I think it comes mostly down to education and healthcare and roads. Um, we can try to get some more money into those communities, but they really need a strong task force of some kind to get kind of jumpstart
Hmm.
economies and healthcare systems and education for those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we know, like, we know that, Marion County, Hamilton County, Hancock County, Johnson County, Boone County, and Hendricks County are all growing. But they're not growing because people are leaving other states to move to Indiana. We're actually stealing people from surrounding counties. But we also heard our Eli Lilly CEO talk about, we don't have an educated workforce, right? We're
Yeah,
struggling. What is your vision? Again, I know this is your treasure, but you're running as a Democrat, so I've got to ask these questions. When you think about public education, how do you see it? How do you wish it would be? If you could craft your own, or the things that you like to see
yeah.
change, be better, talk about public education in Indiana.
Public education is struggling in Indiana, and I come from public education. I was born and raised in Waukegan, Illinois,
Oh,
and I come from kind of a poor, definitely a poor, like, urban school district. Um, I come from a school that, my elementary school is, the school district is mainly Hispanic. I come from an elementary school that had an English speaking class and a Spanish speaking class for every grade, because there's so many immigrants coming to Waukegan every year, and those kids have to go to school, but they hadn't learned English yet. And so I grew up singing at Christmas time. We'd all go to the auditorium and sing Christmas songs in English and in Spanish. I
nice.
wish I knew Spanish. I do not, and it's
I don't either.
it's one of my regrets.
Right? But that's
But I also went to an F high school. I went to schools that were underfunded, right next door to schools, to public schools that were the best in the state, that
yeah.
are like A+ schools, on the state of Illinois' list of where to go to school. It doesn't feel fair when you're a kid, and it doesn't feel fair when you're a parent. You see other schools getting better funding than your school or your kid's school, and you just know it's not right. Um, so we've got to get equity back into school fundings. We've got to get money back. We cannot take money away from failing schools. Though I Those schools need extra funding, because there are extra challenges in those schools that are not being met, and with the normal kind of funding methods that the state is giving schools. And like, I definitely don't have like I don't have like a really detailed plan on how to fix education. And I can definitely talk about how I think the state treasurer's office has, one small tool that I'm very, very excited about,
Okay.
expanding in the state. We have the College Choice 529 plan. And what that is an education savings plan. And why that can help is because when families start young, investing in saving for their child's higher education, they're more likely to send to for that child is more likely to go get higher education. So we've got the College Choice 529 plan. So what can I do? What can we do better? We can look at, where there are areas where there's not as much investment in that plan, and we can go to those families,
Mm.
we can go to those communities, and we can find out why there is a discrepancy in being able to save for the College Choice 529 plan. So we can create communities where there's better access through, partnerships with financial advisors that will help families get set up. We can do better education on how much a family can save, even with a what seems like a small investment. What a big opportunity that can make over 5, 10, or 15, 20 years. Um, and I think that outreach from the treasurer's office and education on our side and on the community side, that there's a lot more information there, for us to know and for us to learn and for them to learn, so we can increase college savings and then increase access to college for our kids.
I like that. I actually have two 529 plans, one for my niece and one for my nephew, and I got to open another one up from
That's
Missy. You know,
awesome.
because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm terrible with birthdays, and I don't remember to go buy. And then like the holidays roll up, and Christmas is like here, and I forget to go buy. Excuse me, go buy stuff. I would just rather just give them
Yeah,
$25 a month and call it a day, right?
yeah.
Because I just forget. You know, and I
And
think it also it would behoove me. One of the breakout sessions that I was able to sit in on when I was over in Denver, where it was a women's caucus discussion. There were a lot of women focused breakout groups at the convention. Now, story is, in one of the women's breakout sessions with elected women and CEOs, there was some discussion about how women should wear tighter, shorter skirts and play dumb. We're just gonna let that slide on who that came from. But some other good points were there's women caucuses, right? Ain't that dumb?
what?
Yeah, and I was like, are y'all serious right now? Are y'all really serious right now? Like,
Are you pranking me?
right? Are you serious? Right. So one of the other things that was great was that they talked about which states have women caucuses in their legislature, and how women on the right and the left will look at bills. It was a Republican from Louisiana, and she was talking about how, they literally, as women, all the women get together, we look at all the bills and we, put input in and we introduce those. But that's the difference of women coming together. We've mentioned now several times that there are 3 women running in statewide races. Talk about the social impact and the impact on little girls all over Indiana seeing you running as a candidate, as a statewide candidate, and also what it would mean if you were to win that seat.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it would be amazing. Women, women and girls need to see more people in elected office, more people working in government, because it is such a white, male dominated arena. It's really hard to envision yourself in this role if everyone that you see on TV, all the talking heads and everyone you see on TV and everyone that you see in the news, if you read that kind of news, it's always a man. It's always a man's voice. It's always a man's perspective. It almost like it would definitely shapes the narrative, but it kind of shapes your narrative in your head of what it means to be in elected office.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to make it okay to be a woman's voice. A
Mm-hmm.
woman's voice is important in elected office. So the way that we see things, the way that we express our values, the way that we express our opinions, like maybe the way we express our passions, those kinds those kinds of differences are not often seen in government, um, and they're definitely not seen behind the scenes in
Mm-hmm.
government. I
Mm-hmm.
think also the people working in government that are not the elected people are also a lot of men. And so you get a lot of these men's groups, and you get a lot of men sharing ideas, but not necessarily reaching out to women and including women in those groups. And so that's why it's so important to have the Women's Caucus and to have the women's groups getting together and bringing their ideas to those kinds of legislative sessions across the country.
Yeah, and see,
It
tonight
really
I'm sharing
changes.
this live broadcast on the Indiana Nasty Women's Group, because they're starting to get galvanized and do some amazing stuff. I know that Trish Wickham and Mary Klinkos are out there doing what they can to encourage women from the campaign perspective, how to help them run great campaigns. Of course, we got Hoosier Women Forward and all these other amazing places for Democrats, women, the DWC, which our meeting is in the morning, right? All
Yeah.
these amazing places for Indiana women to cultivate their leadership. And that's why I'm really super duper proud that you were on the ballot. You've always been kind of quiet to me. So I didn't know. I was like, is she? My first question was, she's going to run a statewide campaign? And you, I didn't. It wasn't that you couldn't do it, right? Like I keep trying to get Nicole to run a statewide campaign, but she ain't gonna do it.
Uh-huh.
Like she won't do it. And I'm so happy because you have embraced this experience and you are running with it. Like I knew you could do it, but like I'm just watching you blossom and grow.
Thank you.
And this will not, when you win, we gonna keep on pushing you to do greater and greater things. So I'm so excited for you. So tell the people where they can find you, Jessica, because if you like what she's talking about, y'all should donate on that link down there. Her Act Blue link is down there. Donate, give her some money because running a statewide campaign is not cheap. But tell the people where they can find you.
I've got a website, Jessica for Indiana. So all of my handles are the Jessica for Indiana kind of branding. So you can go to www.jessicaforindiana, Jessica for Indiana on Facebook, Jessica for Indiana on Instagram, and Jessica for Indiana on Twitter. But I don't go to Twitter yet. I haven't started tweeting yet because
You will though. You will. I know you will because
yeah.
there's a lot to tweet about. And
Yeah, Dana, you said I am a quiet. I think that's why I like being treasurer. Like, there's parts of me that like I want to get out there and just like I love campaigning, and then there's the other side of me that's like I just want to go and be treasurer.
yeah,
I just want to go and look at the numbers and do all the not sexy stuff. But I also want to plug in for a great place to see us three women candidates is at the Dig in Your Heels fundraiser at the Indiana State Democratic Party's summer fundraiser, their IDEA convention in French Lick. It's a super fun time. And Saturday night, you can come to French Lick and you can meet all three of us women. You can talk to us, you can take pictures with us, you can get to know us face to face and ask us ask us anything you want. But it's gonna be really down to earth and really, really fun. And that is August. Do you know that? Is it August 20th?
The 20th, yeah, the 19th to 20th, yeah, because it's 18th through the 21st.
Saturday, August 20th. So come down to French Lick and have an amazing time with the three women candidates.
I'll be there. I'm already excited about it. And so do you do any canvassing? I've never ran a statewide campaign. So do you guys do canvassing?
Yeah, we do canvassing with other local elected officials. So anybody else who's running in other areas, we'll do canvassing with them. We do a lot of one-on-one phone calls, and so we also do a lot of going to like women's caucuses, labor unions, retirees groups, any kind of group that will listen to us or let us talk to them, because this women's ballot is so great that even if you're a hardcore, even if you're a Republican, we want you to hear our message because we are so qualified and we're so dedicated to making Indiana a great state that I really believe that when you hear from us and when you meet us in person and see how qualified and professional and how well we would represent everybody in the state of Indiana, you'd be willing to split your vote, split your ballot for us.
Or they could just, mark all D's and call it a day. They ain't got to split it. Just vote D.
Yeah. Or they can they can try out voting D and see how that makes
See how it fits. Nobody has to know how they voted. When you go in the booth, you by yourself. Nobody knows how you voted. Come on over to the side.
Yeah.
So
we've been fighting for everybody since day one, and we're not going to stop.
I love it. And can people sign up to be volunteers on your website? Because you need an army.
Yes, you can sign up to be a volunteer on my website. We've got a couple. We've got one place to sign up on the website, and when you go there, you can check some boxes of some things that you would like to do. You can just send me a message directly from that sign up. So please get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to connect.
I think you're awesome. So people know that I think you're awesome. So y'all support her. So guys, she told you where to sign up. I need some of you to host some fundraisers for her. Have an open house for Jessica. Do something like that. If you can't knock doors, that's fine. You can make phone calls. If you can't make phone calls, that's fine. You can do some data entry for her. If you can't do data entry, that's fine. Host like I said, an open house, or just donate, do something, because it takes all of us. It's up to us now. right? It is up to us now. We can't wait on anybody else. And if nothing else, Kansas showed you what it looks like when we get behind women in this woman's movement and do things in the right way. We have an opportunity to make some real changes in our state. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. Before you go, I want to do a closing real quick. You're amazing. But y'all, I gotta say, we lost a state, one of our congressmen, in a tragic death. The police report has been a little bit revised. At first, we assumed that the single passenger vehicle crossed over, but it looks like her campaign vehicle actually crossed over. So we don't know what was going on. But there were 4 people that lost their lives. I did not agree one bit with Jackie Walorski, and I'm gonna tell you now, I thought she was on the wrong side of pretty much everything. But I feel for her family. I feel for those staffers who were there with her, because what I think about is she was just doing what most of us who love politics do. We were on the road. She was on the road going to do another thing. And when you're out here loving what you do, it was just a reminder, you know, watch yourself, be careful, and always take every day. Don't take any day for granted. Be grateful for every day you have. I literally was in Denver, right, reading my phone and seeing the tweet, and I was like, wow. First thing that came to my mind, she was just driving to or from an event. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that, right? As deputy chair of the party, I've driven up and down these highways. So no, I mean, yeah, she was supporting the insurrectionists. Yeah, she wanted to overturn the election. Yeah, she wanted to do all those things that we despise. But I still know that she was doing what she felt like she was doing. She had staffers with her, and of course, the other person in the single car vehicle. So Indiana's Own is sending condolences out to the families of those who were taken from us in that tragic accident. I lift y'all up because y'all love them. Y'all loved every one of them, and I hope that you find peace in this very tragic accident. That being said, y'all keep watching the General Assembly. There's some humdingers happening out of that. I mean, literally, these people, man, and John Jacobs. I'm so glad they redistricted him. He isn't like, you can just hear the House Speaker go, "Oh God, you again." Right? He is so bad for Indiana. He is so bad for Indiana. I hope he loses his seat. But y'all, it's those Democrats in that state house and in the Senate, they are fighting by themselves. I know they feel alone. If you have a kind word and you know how to get in touch with your representative, send them a kind word, because they are on the battle. They got to hear things that we are not hearing. We don't know what's going on in those committee meetings sometimes. Not everything is broadcast, right? You're supposed to, but you know it's not. Send our elected Democrats a note and just say, thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for standing up for us. And give them the encouragement that they need to keep doing the work that they're doing in that state house, because they are literally getting verbally assaulted pretty regularly in there. All right, Indiana's Own Dana Black. I will be back next week. I hope you guys are excited about meeting Jessica and the other 2 amazing ladies, Zanae and Destiny, when I have them on. Something else, Marion County folks, before I go, Marion County folks, please check out the IDAC Indy Facebook page. We have a series of events. We're going to bring in our elected officials so that you can ask questions, talk to them, and talk about how they plan to use their office to improve the lives of African Americans, Black folk in Indianapolis and Marion County. So if you can, find out, see the calendar dates, come to all of them. Because it's going to be a mix every week. Every session is going to have a different set of elected officials. We were trying to, group them, but candidates are busy, so you got to try to get them in when you can get them in. But come on out and meet these folks. This is it's geared towards helping our Black community understand why these elected officials are important to improving the lives of Black folk in Marion County. Because they really don't want us here. Anyway, thank y'all so much.